What's up, everybody? It's your girl Phaedra, and you are listening to Phae's Place, the podcast. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Phae's Place, the podcast. First things first, shout out to those who have followed Phae's Place from the vlog stage to now the podcast. You can find all the videos on Facebook as well as YouTube. And of course, please follow us on Instagram at Phae's Place. So let's get into it. We all have it. We have all been there. I'm talking about being stuck in the zone. The comfort zone. Yep, that place where everything's safe. There's no rocking the boat, no surprises, no pain, and evidently no gain. Comfort zones create limits. And the last thing a child of God needs to be is limited. Society provides us with a limitless list of limits. Honey, that is a tongue twister. Try saying that 3 times fast. They tell us what to do, what not to do. What to talk about, what not to talk about. Basically, they do our thinking for us. And if we're not careful, our comfort zone will keep us stagnant and depressed. Comfort zones are the leading cause as to why we are dissatisfied. It's why we can't sleep at night, or why we become bitter or annoyed when we see or hear about others pursuing their dreams. We will come up with every excuse in the book as to why we cannot do what God has called us to do and has equipped us to do. Our comfort zone limits us from enjoying the full presence of God. Hebrews chapter 13, verses 13 through 15 from the Message translation reads, "So let's go outside where Jesus is, where the action is, not trying to be privileged insiders, but taking our share in the abuse of Jesus. This insider world is not our home. We have our eyes peeled for the city about to come. Let's take our place outside with Jesus, no longer pouring out the sacrificial blood of animals, but pouring out sacrificial praises from our lips to God in Jesus' name." The Christian identity is all about going out. The Great Commission in Matthew 28 tells us, go out into all the world and make disciples. Following Jesus is not about being comfortable. The pericope I just read in your hearing connects the Old Testament with the New Testament. In the days of Exodus, being outside of the camp or outside of that sacrificial system meant being unclean. It meant being one of them. It meant being looked down upon. It meant being different. However, when we look at the sacrifice of Jesus, which makes us clean, that also was performed outside of the camp. Therefore, this scripture is telling us that the way out of the camp is also the way into the unshakable realm of God. When we go outside, we start to identify with the secular world where people are exposed to harsh experiences rather than being secluded and protected from them. We start to identify with those who don't have clean water, with those who are confronted with making the heartbreaking decision of either paying for medication or paying for food, with those who have spent years locked up for crimes they didn't even commit. We tend to stay in our comfort zones because stepping out will cause us to stand out. We won't be able to fit in or go with the flow. Sometimes the worst thing we'll face is being talked about or side-eyed. Meanwhile, our brothers and sisters are literally facing life-threatening situations. We value our comfortability more than we value the well-being of our neighbor. And that, my friend, is a problem. Going outside the camp where Jesus is, that's where the action takes place. That's where we're not trying to be privileged insiders, as the Message translation calls it. And all of us sit in a place of privilege. We have gender privilege, wealth privilege, race privilege, educational privilege. We're not addicted to any substance abuse. And don't get me wrong, these things are nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, we should be grateful for these honors, but we cannot allow them to keep us in our comfort zone. We need to be outside of our comfort zone in order to share in the abuse of Jesus. Like, wasn't it uncomfortable being denied by friends? Was not the cross uncomfortable? Yet he did it so that we can boast about having a high priest who is able to sympathize with us. We are called to be light and the salt of the earth. We are called to be separated from this system, a system that demeans, excludes, and silences the voices of the oppressed. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "There comes a time when silence becomes betrayal." True separation is costly, but that cost will cause us to experience the true presence of God. So friends, how are you going to push past your comfort zone this week? And what have you even learned about your comfort zone? I would love to hear it. Share it with us in the comments section. Thank you so much for stopping by Phae's Place. I love you all for listening.